I don't know about you, but I am already sick of the trade period. I am just sick of the nonsense, sick of the noise, sick of the talk, and the things that I've seen across social media and everyone's opinion. And everyone's entitled to their opinion, but everyone's opinion that I've seen for the last week since Trade Radio started has been just, yeah, there's some real nonsense going out there. And, well, the nonsense does hit home when a report comes out the day before of the trade period starting that Zak Butters requested a trade. He hasn't requested a trade. He inquired about a trade 4 weeks left in the 2025 season, which was roughly around the same time that we got belted by the Crows in a showdown and the Cats down at Geelong, and Zach had arguably his worst game for the club against the Cats that day too. So, and it's around the same time Naz hadn't decided his signature yet, and it all adds up. And it got me thinking, this is a big conundrum. This is going to be a talking point for the next 10 days, and it's going to be whether or not the media push it into the realms of Zach actually requesting the trade. And I hope Zach right now has switched off his phone for the next 10 days and doesn't answer any calls, and his management doesn't even get a response from him, and we're going into next year all okay. In my honest opinion, right here, right now, I sit here and I'm confident to say that Zak Butters will play at Port Adelaide in 2026. That is on a stance based purely on the fact that this capital of draft and what clubs could offer this year is nowhere near the merit that Port Adelaide would be wanting to even think about the possibility of trading Zak Butters. He's a vice captain of a football club. I don't know what it is about vice captains or leadership at this club that seems to just stand there and Dan Houston was part of the leadership group and then just got up and left. What kind of leader and what kind of example are you setting as a player? This player that is Zak Butters is the most courageous, been nominated the most courageous player, has won the award of most courageous. He's a 3-time BNF winner. He's been an All-Australian. It is, I know the hypotheticals of trading Zach is there, and people will talk about it, and people talk about, Port Adelaide should cash in now. Why? Why would we cash in on a player that we want to keep, that we want to stay, and we will do everything we can to convince this player to stay? He doesn't even know what he's getting into with Josh Carr yet. I've heard multiple things talked about how they have great relationships with their coaches, and if it's Zach saying purely he wants to go home, I don't agree with that. I don't think that's right. You can't stand in the way of players wanting to go home. I understand that. It's always what's the player's interest. But what about the club? And this is where I think Port Adelaide need to just have a set of balls and stand there and say, no, it's not happening. We're not trading our best player. We're not trading a vice captain. We're not trading a bloke that is the future of this football club. Well, in fact, he isn't the future. He's in the now of this football club. It is a big conundrum. It's one of those things where we sit here and he's inquired about possibility of a trade, and then Port Adelaide have simply shut that down, saying no, which I think is fantastic. It's a real insight. I think that no is so powerful and so big that they've gone, it's not happening this year. In fact, it could not happen at all. Next year is obviously a free agent. We have to match the bid from any football club to keep him, or even entice a trade. And if it purely comes down to money, we'll match that. I think he'll stay. It's not money based, obviously. It's purely wanting to go home. And in this instance, I'm strongly suspecting that we'll match it anyway, and force a trade from that, like the Cats and GWS did with Jeremy Cameron, and the Giants benefited from 3 first-round draft picks. It would help us next year too with capital for players that we sort of want to pick up in the draft anyway, especially with NGA and father-son picks coming in the next couple of years. We'll definitely need all the draft picks we need and high-end picks possible. So in that aspect, I think, that's what we're going to do. That's the strategy, and in no way, shape or form should Port Adelaide bow down or back down to any of this nonsense talk about trading Zak Butters. It's as simple as that. He should not be traded. Port Adelaide fans will think, okay, surface level, it's probably not a bad idea. You cash in on it, and you really want to make sure that you're getting the best deal possible. Yes, But in a draft that is as weak as this one, and the prospects of future draft picks next year, and the compensation that we possibly could end up with, I would be not even entertaining a trade. It is not even thought about, in my opinion. And I would love to know your thoughts, because this is our best player. This is arguably the best player we'll ever have at this football club. And in an off year where the club really hit lows, and his mentor in Ken Hinckley's left, and he's left with the facings of a new coach, I want to really dive into the mind of Zak, because if it's about the coach and about the connections, you've got great friends, great players around you, you've got great support, you've got a good captain in Connor Rosie, who's been your best mate since draft pick. You've got this whole club around you. This club is you, and you want to leave to go to a place, the possibility of being traded to your club that you support with Luke Beveridge, who's going to be a new coach, who would be a new coach for Zak Butters. Going home, yes, you're surrounded by loved ones. Why do you want to be comfortable? That's my thinking here. You're going to get a new coach regardless of wherever you go. And if you stay at Port, you got Josh, who you already know. You've got a relationship with. You've got a relationship with the players. You want to feel comfortable, stay at the place you're at. You don't want to put any sort of hypotheticals in your own mind as a player. And I find that interesting. I find that whole situation interesting, because I look at aspects about other players around the competition. Players wanting out. Ryan Marshall wants a trade. Charlie Curnow wants a trade. There's Zach Merritt, the possibility of being traded. And then you look at the other side of the spectrum, and it's purely like Nasiah Wanganeen-Miller stays, being enticed by so much. Come home fact is so much. It's so there, and he stays for 2 years. He signs on for 2 years. Does the due diligence. Sticks fat with the club. Knows there's improvement. He belongs. He's an integral part, and does it. That's loyalty. That's what I want football to be. That's what I want football to be based on, and that's what I want Zak Butters to do. That's, and he's just had a mentor of Travis Boak, who is the biggest example of what leaving, what could be going home, and that possibility really looks like, and standing your ground and saying, no, this club is what I want this club to have the vision I want, and so forth. Zak Butters will be the best player Port Adelaide's ever had if he stays a one-club footballer. It's very hard to have a one-club player these days, and I understand that, and the go-home factor is very, very real in this modern-day society. But I strongly feel like the club needs to do its due diligence for its own benefit and say no to Zak. And at the same time, from what I hear, Zak Butters gets almost a free pass to go home whenever he feels like. When they travel to Melbourne, he gets to go early. When he leaves Melbourne after a trip, he leaves the later out of anyone. He gets to stay home. He gets to really benefit from that. And he gets all these benefits, and all he's accompanied by the club and given first choice of everything. So I feel like that repaying factor needs to be there, and I'm just really concerned where this whole thing sits. I do not want to be screwed over like the Dan Houston trade last year, which doesn't look as bad as it seems, but it also does. So I would love to know your thoughts. My summary opinion of this all is, do not trade Zak Butters in any way, shape or form. Zak is just having, I think it's almost a footballer's moment, maybe I just leave now and leave the club, when there's so much optimism and fresh faces and new hope for this club. And I think, as soon as Zak meets Stewie Drew, for example, everything changes. So yeah, it's interesting. It's nervy, and as a supporter, you're very, very anxious, because you don't want to lose your best player to a club that is like the Dogs, who has all the best players in the midfield, or Collingwood, who has all the money in the prime time slots, or even like Geelong, who just seems to get everyone for nothing. So crazy, and I don't like this time of the year, but I would love to know your thoughts, Port fans. So yeah, there you have it. That's a little bit of a summary of the Zak Butters conundrum that I'm sort of pondering at the moment. It's obviously on the eve of the trade period, and it's something that we're going to have to live with for the next 10 days or so. And you know what? Let's just blink and hope for the 10 days to be over, and Zak's still playing in Port colours come 2026, because I think as soon as you play 2026 and you see the difference that Port can be, and the future you can see, I think Zak will be okay, and think Zak will stay at Port. But we'll wait and see. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for plenty more Port Adelaide and AFL content to come your way across the trade period and the rest of the year. We're nearly at 6,000 subscribers, and thank you so much for the support already for the previous videos too. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. My name's Anthony, and as always, count the pair.